we are going to focus on the 220-1101. Remember, in order for us to receive our Comptia Plus certification, we have to pass two exams. This is one out of the two. And we are literally working our way down towards all the objectives. Actually, believe it or not, this video here is the 1.4, which is the last section for what would be 1.0 mobile devices. So today we're going to talk about 1.4. Given a scenario, configure basic mobile device network connectivity and application support. So let's go ahead and get straight to it. We got the presentation here. And once again, we are focusing on core objective 1.4. If you haven't seen the previous videos, I highly recommend that you do see them. A little bit of studying every single day adds up. Okay, I will say that. A little bit of studying every single day. Hopefully, you can do a whole lot of studying every single day, but a little bit by little bit definitely goes ahead and adds up. So once again, 1.4, given a scenario, configure basic mobile devices, network connectivity, and application support. Now, I'm going to be honest with you guys. In this particular presentation, we are going to go ahead and talk about a lot of cellular technology. I don't think you need to go ahead and be, let's say, an expert physicist and understand exactly like the actual radio waves, so to speak, or trying to calculate any radio waves, but just making sure that you have at least a faint idea, okay, of the technology that's being used and how it's being used. That obviously you would want to have a better understanding, but even just having a slight idea of how this technology is working is going to go ahead and give you a major advantage. Obviously, the more you know, the more you grow, but I will go ahead and say that because I do, just like yourself, I am a student, and when I'm studying this, it does get overwhelming because they just throw the whole alphabet soup at you. But nonetheless, let's go ahead and continue. So when it comes to wireless and cellular data network, okay, we are in the realm of technology, guys. Okay, we are in the realm of technology. So when it comes to technology, things improve time over time, right? So what I wanted to say was, as time increases and you have a certain technology and there's a market for that technology and they start investing in that technology, and people are rather clever, they start to go ahead and say, hey, we can make it better like this, or we can make it better like this, or we can make it better like this. And then they go ahead and go into deciding, hey, you know what, we can standardize this and we can make more money from it. So let's go ahead and do that. So when it comes to wireless and cellular data network, just be mindful. There's a 2G, there's a 3G, there's a 4G, there's a 5G. I promise you right now, I don't have any proof, but I can guarantee you they probably have like a 10G right now that's somewhere out there in the middle of the desert. They're doing research and development and they might have access to that technology, but they're just like, hey, you know what? Let's not give it to the masses, so to speak. These here are technologies that have been standardized, and a lot of cellular companies go ahead and like to promote these technologies. What the key takeaway from here is, as the technology has evolved, it has allowed for faster data transmission. That's the key point there, okay? That's the if you can take one thing away from this whole presentation, is as technology has evolved, it has allowed for faster and larger data transmission, okay? Before, and you guys can see here, when we had the 2G, you can basically go ahead and just do digital voice and basic data, okay? And then I don't know, I remember it because I used to literally have a cell phone that would go ahead and allow me to search the web, but it was the slowest thing in the world. Okay. And that's because the technology that we were using and the transmission of that data was extremely slow. Okay. So keep that in mind. So you have your 2G, your 3G, 4G, and 5G. Okay, and the best way to think about it is it's better speeds. And I promise you now, with the with AI and going ahead and having the technology that we have nowadays, you're going to go ahead and be able to go ahead and you'll probably be able to render a 3D model um, and go ahead and project that from your phone in the coming years. All right, I think they probably already had that technology, but like I said, it's just giving it to the masses, so to speak. But the only way you can do that is by being able to output more data at a faster rate. Okay. And just keep these words in mind: the speed, okay, the latency, the capacity, applications, and the infrastructure. Okay. All of those are common variables with regards to what type of, basically, what can you do, how can you do it, so on and so forth. Okay, so just keep that in mind. 2G, 3G, 5G, 4G, all of those. Obviously, right now, as you guys can see, if you just walk down the street and you see a T-Mobile, Verizon, or what have you, a lot of them are promoting 5G, which basically gives you better speeds for more devices, and it allows you to run your applications with higher capacity, lower latency, and higher speed. Well, let's continue forward. This right here is something I would definitely pay attention to, because it's one of those things where you can it's very easy to overlook. But just looking at the technology, okay, just looking at the technology, and as you guys can see, this is rather old tech, okay, because this was basically replaced by 4G. If this was replaced by 4G and now we're on 5G, you guys can go ahead and see that this was definitely, quite some time. I would probably say in the 2000s, somewhere around there, 2000s, 2010, looking into that. Okay, but you definitely want to know this. So, GSM, what does that stand for? Global System for Mobile Communications. Okay, and the key takeaway from this, okay, is that within GSM, there was also other technologies here known as TDMA, FDMA, and this right here had a global adoption. That means when a lot of cellular companies were coming out, they're just like, hey, we're going to go ahead and focus on this technology here, GSM, Global System for Mobile Communications. And a lot of that was done via SIM cards. Not to say that was the only technology, because as you guys can see, we already have CDMA, and CDMA stands for Code Division Multiple Access. So this right here basically had no SIM cards. It was mostly in the United States of America. If you guys can see, the US is completely different from the world. You know, the whole world uses metric. We decide to go ahead and come up with our own thing. Well, hey, if you guys use metric, we're going to go ahead and use inches, so on and so forth. Okay. So just keep that in mind with regards to the standards. I know most of us here who are watching this probably live in the US. So you're going to go ahead and we know what we know, so to speak. So we might not have that global aspect. But when it comes to this technology, just realize, hey, GSM, they were using that on a global basis, and the United States was using more so CDMA. Okay. And like I said, this right here, the major difference between these, one of them had a SIM card, the other one did not. Okay, as you guys can see there. And then a lot of this, I'm not going to get too much into the weeds, but just realize that there was spread spectrum technology. Okay, so that's basically how the radio waves, okay, or how the waves are distributed and how they're received, okay, is basically highly critical to determining, hey, is this GSM technology or is this CDMA technology? And mind you, a lot of this is older technology, as you guys can see, which this has been replaced by 4G. One thing that I want you guys to take away is the preferred roaming list, because the preferred roaming list is a topic that we actually is covered in the course objectives, and it's something they want you to know. And I can venture out and say, hey, you know what would they ask on a test? What would they ask on a test? And if you know that preferred roaming list is attached to CDMA technology, and they ask something along the lines of, I don't know, let's say, um, Looking at GSM and CDMA, which one used the preferred roaming list? Okay, obviously they're not going to ask something as simple as that, but just knowing, hey, CDMA, old technology, it was before 4G LTE, and it went ahead and it focused on preferred roaming list. Let me see what they ask. At least I have that in the back of my head so I can go ahead and determine what would be the appropriate answer that they go ahead and ask. Okay. So, like I mentioned, preferred roaming list. Okay, this came up twice. One within this technology, the CDMA, and also, well, in it of itself. So, the preferred roaming list, guys, is actually how you think of it as what's on cue, right? If you guys ever watched baseball, okay, if you guys ever watched baseball, and you're just like, hey, so and so is batting right now, but uh, we have Joe on, we have Joe on deck. Hey, after Joe, we're gonna have Steve after him, and after Steve, we're gonna go ahead and have Joey after them. So you guys can see the preferred roaming list is basically that when it comes to your cell phone. So your cell phone saying, hey, you're in this particular location. Within this particular location, we have this particular tower. If you were to move this way, we're going to have this tower, X, Y, and Z. And if you move this way, we're going to have this other tower, which we'll call X1, Y1, Z1. Okay. So that right there goes ahead. It's basically a network. Okay. Think of it as like a honeycomb of, if this is your location, you have access to these particular towers. That way you can go ahead and continuously keep your communication signal wherever you may go. Okay. And that's basically what preferred roaming list is. Okay. The CDMA, okay, that technology goes ahead and stores basically the database of all the cellular towers that are in your particular area. So wherever you may move, you can go ahead and continuously keep that communication signal. Okay, that's basically what preferred roaming list is. I put here database stored on CDMA wireless device info about available networks and their frequencies. Okay, so just think of it as literally you're a baseball coach. Okay, your phone is a baseball coach, and it's literally telling you, hey, this person's up, hey, this person's up, hey, this person's up, so to speak. Okay, and the person that's up would be basically the cellular tower. So preferred roaming list. Let's go on to the next one, Bluetooth. And I kid you not, guys, one of the criteria for Comptia A plus is literally how to go ahead and set up a Bluetooth device. I don't know about you. I don't want to insult your intelligence or anything, but I think that's something that literally people who aren't even tech savvy can do. Okay, and it's simply as going ahead and turning on the device, going ahead and going into the settings, clicking a few buttons, and voila, you are connected to your Bluetooth device. It always helps to have an additional spare device just in case, to try to figure out, hey, is the device I'm trying to connect to not working, or is it my phone that's not working, or is it the laptop that's not working? So it always helps to have additional devices to try to figure out and troubleshoot something as simple as, hey, make sure you turn on the device before you try to connect to Bluetooth, can go ahead and solve a lot of problems. But just remember, you should be able to, as an IT professional, be able to connect with Bluetooth, Bluetooth, enable pairing, find a device for pairing, enter the appropriate pin if necessary, and test connectivity. Okay, Bluetooth is its own technology. That's something that we talked about. Remember, we talked about three wireless technologies. We had NFC, we had Bluetooth, and we had Wi-Fi. Okay, so just make sure you know how to go ahead and connect to a Bluetooth device. Next thing is going to be GPS, which stands for Global Positioning System Services. Okay, when it comes to GPS, guys, I want you to think about the hardware. And when it comes to the hardware, we are dealing with satellites. Okay, we are literally dealing with satellites. If you guys ever turned on the news and heard about this gentleman named Elon Musk, he wanted to go ahead and create Starlink. How is he doing that? He's literally shooting up satellites up into space so they can go ahead and have their own network, so on and so forth. So just keep that in mind when it comes to GPS. You are dealing with satellites, and how does it work? How it works. Okay, so it's basically what we call triangulation measures of the time of signals. So basically, what's going on is that it's literally shooting a signal and it's waiting for the signal to respond back. And based upon the time that it takes for the signal, from the time you shoot the signal to the time the signal comes back, that mathematical equation, okay, that mathematical equation is going to go ahead and give you an approximation of where exactly you are. And obviously, the more satellites you have, okay, the more accurate your measurements are going to be. Okay, if you measure something from one angle versus if you measure something from 100 angles, you can realize that, hey, this is the measuring from 100 angles is going to go ahead and give me a lot more accurate and precise information. So as long as you know, hey, GPS, they work by satellites, and if they ask how do they work, hey, you know, it's going to shoot a signal, it's going to wait to see how long that signal comes back, and based upon that, it has this mathematical equation to try to go ahead and figure out where it is in its location. Okay, let's continue on to word of the day. All right, this is one of my favorite sections with the presentation, guys. As I mentioned, it is critical and highly important to go ahead and increase your IT vocabulary. Okay, we are in the world and in a career of basically alphabet soups. At times, I feel like we're kind of like a dictionary or thesaurus. Okay, but making sure that you understand the IT language. So let's go ahead and go into word of the day, which is cloud. Guys, I know this might seem pretty simple, and for some of you who are just like, hey man, I'm looking for sophisticated information, I would just want to remind you that the fundamentals are a key aspect to building a solid foundation. Okay, and being able to describe things in layman's terms is extremely important. Okay, if somebody comes up to you and says, hey, what's a cloud? Right? You can go ahead and be able to answer that by the end of this video. So, what is the cloud? Is the cloud something that when you look up in the sky, there's a cloud, or is that something when they say, "Hey, it's a beautiful day, there's no clouds outside"? You know, no, 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 no. A cloud, when it comes to IT, is I want you to think about it with regards to, um, honestly, the way I would describe it. Okay, if somebody were to ask me, "Hey, can you describe a cloud?" Um, in reference to IT frame, I would describe a cloud as basically renting. Okay, because that's literally what you're doing. You are renting. Just remember that there's different aspects of a cloud. And as you guys can see here, I have this word here, SaaS, software as a service, PaaS, platform as a service, and IaaS, infrastructure as a service. So there's different, I don't want to say there's different clouds, but there's different aspects of the cloud. Okay, some people might just need software, some people might need a platform, and some people might just need an extra 3 servers. Okay, but at the end of the day, remember what I said. When it comes to cloud, just think of you as literally renting hardware or software, or you're renting technology, and it's literally pay as you go. So if you're using it, you're more than likely paying for it. Okay. But let's read here what I wrote down. Imagine instead of owning your own computer hardware like a desktop or server, you rent it from a company. This rented computer hardware is located in massive data centers and is accessible over the internet. This is essentially cloud computing. So, like I said, when you think of cloud, you are literally thinking about renting things. If you wanted to go ahead, and a lot of the world is going towards this, and we see it every single day. Um, but for example, say you own a small little company and you have an email server, and you're just like, hey, is it cheaper to have a cloud email server, or is it cheaper to have the email server online, or if you have a web server, so on and so forth? Okay, guys. So when it comes to cloud, you're literally renting it. Okay, you can rent the software, you can rent the platform, you can rent the infrastructure, and it's more so as pay as you go. Another extremely highly critical point of the cloud, okay, guys, is that it is a massive data center. Okay, somewhere out there in New Mexico, I don't know where Amazon has their data center, but somewhere out there in the world, just realize that there's this massive building that's basically going ahead and has everyone's information. Okay, literally has everyone's information, and they can go ahead and remotely log in. And now they're going ahead and getting those services as opposed to having those services in house, and all of it depends. Is it better to have it cloud? Is it better to have it in house? All of it depends on you, your company, your situation, whether it's necessary, not necessary. Is it cost effective, not cost effective? You need to literally need to go ahead and do pros and cons if you're thinking about cloud computing, and see if it's beneficial for you. Okay, let's go on to the next thing. So once again, we're back onto the presentation for what would be 1.4, which is Comptia A plus course objectives. And this is something that you should definitely know as an IT professional, especially if your company is giving out devices such as maybe laptops or cell phones. Believe it or not, I actually worked for a company at one point in time that would go ahead and give you a company cell phone. And within that company cell phone, it was like this generic, inexpensive smartphone. But within that, it had company information. It had the email, it had the chat, it had customers' names, it had our schedule, and everything was on there. So if an individual were to lose that phone, or if that phone was to go ahead and somehow try to be hacked, or for whatever reason or whatever might happen, you want to, as an IT professional that is responsible for the company's hardware, you would want to have a means of being able to control that data so that data doesn't get into the wrong hands. What if you lose that phone, and that phone is now on in the presence of your major competitor? Okay, and they're like, oh, they're doing this, or they're doing this, or oh, you know what, they have this, or so on and so forth, right? So you definitely want to protect your assets. You definitely want to go ahead and protect your data, because data is an asset. Okay, and one of those ways that we can do that is by MDM, mobile device management. So, this is basically a software solution. It allows IT admin to monitor, manage, and secure mobile devices within an organization. So, if that phone that you had, an employee had it, and they're like, hey, I lost my phone, lost the company phone, I don't know where it went. Hey, don't worry about it. Try to find it. If not, we'll lock it down. If you can't find it, we're going to go ahead and do a remote wipe. They can go ahead and have control of the applications. If they're just like, hey, this phone is only for this particular purpose, we don't want you to go ahead and put any of your own applications. We're only going to allow for certain applications that require you to go ahead and perform your job duties. Okay, a data encryption, that's another important one. Let's just say that the employee didn't even realize they lost their phone. They come back on Monday, and the phone's been gone for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And now you have 3 days that are unaccounted for. You're trying to figure out, hey, what's going on? At least you have the ability, at least you have not a safety net, so to speak, but at least hey, you know what? The data is encrypted. At least we have a layer of security. Okay, and obviously inventory management as well. Okay, being able to go ahead and figure out, hey, we have these many cell phones out. This is how many we purchased. Or do we have the count? Is the count good? Okay, let's continue. So MDM, that's something that is extremely important. Remember, that stands for mobile device management. Okay, it allows a company to be able to have control, access to critical information within basically their property, that they're allowing you to use for you to perform your job functions. So let's go to the next one, which is MAM. And guys, when I first looked at this, I looked at MDM and I looked at MAM, and I got a little slightly confused, because one of them is a mobile device management and the other one is a mobile application management. And I was just like, hey, wait a minute. Okay. But the major difference between MDM and MAM is that MAM is an application management. And we already established that an application management is only one piece of the MDM. So, in the grand scheme of things, in the bigger picture, MDM has more control and it's more robust compared to that of an MAM. And why would they have two different things? Well, one of those reasons would be for the BYOD. BYOD stands for bring your own device. So if a company says, hey, you know what, we're a new startup company, we don't have a lot of money, but we need an individual to have a smartphone so we can go ahead and have you perform your job functions. We might be able to compensate you, but we need you to have your own smartphone with your own plan. And we need you to run this application on your own smartphone so you can perform your job functions. Okay, and I've seen a lot of that. Um, whether that's good or whether that's bad, that's neither here nor there. We're just looking at the technical aspect. And the technical aspect is that a MAM is a mobile application management, which just manages the application of a company that an individual would have in their own device in order for them to perform their job functions. Okay. And when it comes to MDM versus MAM, realize that MDM is more robust. It allows for better control of the complete device compared to MAM, where it's just management and control of only the specific device. Okay, and as you guys can see here, I put a few other little notes: application and data control, corporate applications, email configuration, two-factor authentication. That's if you log into their application and whatnot. Things of that nature. So you guys can see the difference between MDM and MAM. Remember, when it comes to MAM, that's highly likely going to be with regards to a company that's asking individuals to bring their own device. So they have a means to protect their data in the application that is in your own property. Okay, let's continue forward. And I believe this is the last slide. And remember, the word of the day was cloud. And now we're going to talk about mobile device synchronization. And I want you, think cloud. Okay. Nowadays, guys, right, computers are amazing. Okay. Nowadays, if you wanted to go ahead and have your, for example, email is a really good one. If you have your login to your email, you can go anywhere in the world, hypothetically, anywhere in the world that has internet connection. And as long as you have your login credentials and your password, and those are accurate, and you might need to have two-layer authentication, so they might need to send you a text with the code, but you can technically log in. Okay. And that's the big key takeaway. Especially, for example, Microsoft 365, if you're an individual who focuses it a lot on presentations, and maybe that's your job function to travel the world and go ahead and give presentations, you can have a Microsoft 365 account. And you know that if you go out to the middle of Europe and you need to go ahead and get access to your presentation because you need to make adjustments or what have you, you can use that account to go ahead and basically log in and have access as long as you have internet access. Okay. And Microsoft is obviously a major player, Google is obviously a major player, and Apple is obviously a major player. And remember, when it comes to cloud, the good thing and the bad thing is that basically your information is somewhere out there in a huge warehouse of basically server farms, and that can be accessed either by you or by someone else. Ideally, you want it to be only accessed by appropriate individuals. And remember, you can synchronize your data when it comes to mail, photos, calendar, contacts, so on and so forth. Apple's pretty good on this. If you go and you want to go ahead and get a new iPhone, they have, by a push of a button, you can literally take all the information from one phone and synchronize it to your brand new phone. And Microsoft, Google, they all have that same functionality. So just being able to realize mobile devices, the synchronization, so on and so forth. The